folks, welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, welcome. My name is Natasha and I do book things here. On Tuesdays, we do Tiny Tuesdays. So the book that we're talking about today is The Last Night at the Telegraph Club by Malinda Lo. Malinda Lo has a couple other published works as well, the main one being A Line in the Dark, came out a couple years ago. The publication date for this one was 2021. This came out mid-January 2021. So the synopsis as per Goodreads is that it is a gripping story of love and duty set in San Francisco's Chinatown during the Red Scare. So it's set in 1954, and Lily Hugh, a 17-year-old, walks into the Telegraph Club, a lesbian bar, with Kathleen Miller. A historical fiction LGBTQ story, which I quite liked. So now I'm going to get into the major topics and triggers. These are the things that are discussed in this book that some people might have an issue with, or triggers, or sensitivity to. So if you don't want to be spoiled for anything, maybe just avoid this part, but this book does talk about racism, racial slurs, deportation, homophobia, internalized homophobia, parental abuse, sexism, death of a loved one, miscarriage, and also a raid at an LGBTQ bar. So if that's something that is going to trouble you, those topics do come up in this book. And getting into the best aspects of this book for me personally, I like that it is an LGBTQ story merged with historical fiction, mixed with the questioning identity of the main character. It melds itself together quite well. It gives you enough of the historical surroundings and how the characters are treated both in race and sexuality, but it provides it to you in a way that is informative but not info-dumpy, which I really liked. A lot of historical fictions for me can be a little bit too much history, not enough character, where I feel like this is a nice mix of both. Sort of the descriptions of dark nights, dark club nights, the found family in this is really nice as well. And the dialogue and everything and the characters feel modern, but then you realize that it is set in the 50s. So the dialogue is well done to keep a modern reader captivated. Then we get into the worst aspects of the book, things that I personally just didn't like. Simply put, they were the book's more hard-hitting historical aspects, so it was reading about the homophobia and the racism and sort of the panic behind the Red Scare. That's not the book's fault, that's just the subject matter. So if you're not looking to get into something a little bit deeper and you're looking for something a little bit lighter, this might not be for you. It wasn't the writing itself, it's just reading about difficult subject. Another aspect that I didn't care for as much, there are a couple flashback scenes with the main character's family in here, and while it does provide sort of a backstory to the family in a bit more historical context, it did sort of break up the narrative that I was enjoying from the main character, so it did sort of jump around a little bit. I did find that the love interest in this was pretty one-note. They could have been described a little bit better, but the description was pretty generic, so I would have wanted a little bit more of their personality coming through. That brings me to my favorite quote. At each intersection, she cast skittish glances at the women waiting for the light to change, wondering if she was one of them too, or her. Given the context of an LGBTQ book, you might be able to sort of piece that together, but that's a quote that sort of stuck with me, is just sort of being, you know, looking around and wondering, you know, is this person like me as well, especially given the historical context? Then, just sort of my overall feelings about the book. I think it's a wonderfully described setting. I think that the merging of historical elements, there's a lot of them that they're merging together, but it is done in a way that, as I mentioned earlier, is sort of easily digestible. This book is a little bit more on the slower side. It is longer. It's about 400 and some pages. I could see some people thinking it's a little bit long, and overall it left me with a story that felt a little bit hopeful in the find family aspect. So who is this book for? I think this book is obviously for fans of LGBTQ fiction, also historical fiction. If you want to sort of jump into something historical that's not too heavy in the historical aspect. I didn't even realize that this was a historical before I got into it, and was surprised by some of the things that I learned, and then it also inspired me to go research more about the things that this book talks about and expand my knowledge that way as well. It's a nice introduction into a little piece in history that maybe a lot of people don't have a lot of knowledge about. Also, if you liked Pulp by Robin Talley, this is a book that I think you'd like as well. So that brings me to my overall rating. I ended up rating this book 4 stars, just for some of the stops in pacing, I guess, is one reason why it's not a 5. Really do recommend this book. I found it quite enjoyable. And the emojis that I'll use to describe this will be the open book emoji, also the stoplight emoji, and then there's sort of that like 2 blue people hugging emoji, and I think those are the ones that I'm gonna go with. So that is my Tiny Talk Tuesday for the last night at the Telegraph Club. Let me know in the comments down below, have you read this book? Will you check it out? Did you like this video? Are you excited for the next Tiny Talk Tuesday? All of that. And without taking up too much of your time, I will let you all go, and I'll see you in my next video.